Hey, this is Nate Ulrich, Browns beat writer from the Akron Beacon-Journal with Steve Doerschuk, Canton Repository Browns beat writer, and we are here at First Energy Stadium after a weird, wild, wet, wacky 21-21 tie between the Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers in the regular season opener. Steve, we got questions. We're going to go 3 and out, okay? And I'm going to remember this time to read who's asking the questions. Brad Heater. Heter. Sorry if I butchered that pronunciation. He tweeted at us at BHeat33. Steve, why did the Browns start Desmond Harrison, an undrafted rookie, at left tackle?
The simple fact is that when the draft was complete, the Browns were thrilled to get Desmond Harrison as an undrafted free agent. Alonzo Highsmith, right-hand man to John Dorsey, the general manager, said during a speech in Canton that I happened to cover that we got the best tackle in the draft. In other words, they got the best tackle in the draft, undrafted, so they were thrilled with the talent. I'm sure there was more to the context of that. What he meant is they got the best talent at left tackle in the draft, but they love the guy's physical traits, and it all rolled into let's get him out on the field sooner rather than later.
Having said that, though, I'm going to piggyback off our guy Brad's question here. Tyrod Taylor took 7 sacks today. Harrison had a couple penalties, false starts. He was also penalized for an illegal formation that was declined. Steve, I know you were zeroing in on the offensive line. Should they have started Desmond Harrison?
No, I don't think so in retrospect, and hindsight is always 20/20, so they had no idea how it was going to go. We didn't, although you could be worried about it before the game. I think everybody was. And you have a former number 2 overall pick, Greg Robinson, sitting on the bench, and there he sat for the whole game. In retrospect, I think there would have been real wisdom, and if you want to win this game rather than develop a player, you absolutely want to win this game. Would have been more wisdom in going with Greg Robinson, former number 2 overall pick.
You could have put him at halftime, you know. And the whole thing was weird. Joel Bitonio was your left tackle since August 1st. Austin Corbett was your left guard since August 1st when they made that move when Sean Coleman didn't satisfy him at left tackle. They went through the whole preseason with that Bitonio-Corbett tandem at left tackle and left guard. Corbett started all 4 preseason games at left guard, and then he was inactive today. They actually went with Earl Watford as their backup interior lineman. So I think they're going to take a hard look at that. I mean, after today and the pressure that Pittsburgh created, the problems that they gave Tyrod Taylor, the amount of times they got hits in on him, I'm thinking they're going to have to review this offensive line plan.
Yeah, Nate, that's probably enough talk about the offensive line, except for maybe one finishing point. And I don't think they are going to make a change. When I asked you, Jackson, about the moving parts that they had to tinker with and fit into this season opener, he said, what moving parts? There was only one, and that was Desmond Harrison, the left tackle. I don't look at it that way. I think they had a lot of moving parts and a lot of new guys coming into new roles this year. So, but it sounded to me, if I'm reading Hugh's disposition, that they're going to move forward with the same line.
Fair enough. I don't think they should, but I don't make those calls. Hugh Jackson does, and this is a great segue to Frank Lucca, L-O-U-C-K-A. Frank asks, how long does Hugh last? Does anyone in the organization think he is a coach that can get the Browns to the playoffs? How long does he last?
Once upon a time, there was a boxing trainer named Frank Lucca. He trained heavyweight Ernie Shavers, who was at the top of the world at one point. But for this Frank Lucca, I'll say, how long does Hugh Jackson last? It's not going to be an early knockout to stay with that boxing team after this. In the Browns locker room, Nate, and you were there just as I was, and in Hugh Jackson's remarks after the game, there was no source of contentment whatsoever, no sort of satisfaction that was conveyed by anybody. And in its way, that's a good thing. You don't want to be satisfied with a tie. But I think in reality, when you're 0-16 last year, when you're in a 4-49 slump, a tie against a team that was 13-3 last year is a thing of great beauty.
I think they should have won this game, though. I think it was a huge missed opportunity. They won the turnover battle 6-1. They didn't win the turnover battle in any game last year. It just feels like a precious, chance, a golden opportunity slipped through their fingers. But I do think that Hugh could have had his back against the wall if they were to come out and go 0-3, if they were to lose that Thursday night game against the Jets and be 0-3, I could see all the talk, all the pressure really start to mount. I don't know if a tie completely alleviates it, but it's not going to be 0-3. So, having said that, this is a question that ties into Le'Veon Bell not being with the Steelers. We know he hasn't signed his $14 million franchise tender yet, and they started James Conner today, who went over 100 yards on the Browns. Where did the run defense go?
Well, the tackle situation was going to be a problem from the start of training camp. When you had an injury to Coley, you decided to give up on Danny Shelton and Jamie Meter, who was here for the whole training camp as a starter, I believe, for all 4 games, suddenly isn't here. So it's almost predictable. But what was the numbers were a little bit staggering. That James Conner, 31 carries, 135 yards. That shouldn't be. I just think that in football karma, when you have a terrible distraction, which is what Le'Veon Bell was throughout the Steelers training camp and is right now, when you have a terrible distraction like that, you don't deserve to win. So the Steelers really did get off the hook by the Browns failing to mount a running defense, but at the same time, failing to do so was not that surprising when you have those kind of moving parts on your interior of your defensive line.
I agree, and I think out of all the cuts on Cutdown Weekend, Jamie Meter was a bit of a surprise. This is a guy who, in the spring, Greg Williams said is one of the best run defenders in the NFL. They could have used one of the best run defenders in the NFL. If that's true about him, they could have used that today. And that was Tim with that question about the run defense. Uncle Tim, 75. Thanks for the questions, guys. Steve Doerschuk from the Canton Repository, Nate Ulrich from the Akron Beacon-Journal, our man George Thomas working the video camera. Thanks, and we will talk to you guys later.